Hey geeks! I have two amazing women on the show today, which I am especially excited about since it's Women's History Month. So stick around because this is not something you want to miss. Seriously, I fangirled a little bit. Please hit that subscribe button below, like this video, and let's get our FOPO on. How many of you geekettes have walked alone somewhere at night and felt scared? According to this week's poll, 100% of my female geeks said you've felt scared before. I can't count the number of times I've walked alone super late at night and hidden my keys in between my fingers, and I know you all know what I'm talking about. Well, the murder of 30-year-old Sarah Everard in London this month while she was walking home has unleashed fury among women in the UK and around the world for the violence that women suffer. Sarah Everard was in a pretty safe area of London when she was kidnapped and then murdered by a police officer who worked as a security guard at the US Embassy. Yeah, you heard me right. A cop did this. So a large group of women in London held a vigil over the weekend for Sarah Everard. And they were warned not to go because of COVID restrictions, but they went anyway to pay their respects and peacefully voice their outrage. And the police reaction has left the world pretty stunned. Officers pulled women away from the vigil, they handcuffed them, they pinned some of them to the ground, as though any of this was necessary. I'm not sure if I reiterated where this took place. This was in London. So the police said they did this because of the pandemic and the lockdown, except I'm not exactly sure why that allowed these cops to manhandle these women, or why these cops didn't behave similarly when a large group of bros drunkenly paraded in the street after a soccer game the week before. British politicians have expressed outrage at the police, and women around the world are standing up to voice themselves against this violence, and also to say that this could have been any one of us. In fact, the World Health Organization just published a report saying that 1 in 3 women globally, I want to repeat that. 1 in 3 women. So around 736 million women have been subjected to physical or sexual violence in their lifetimes. What in the actual FOPO? So I brought on my very good friend, my mentor, and female empowerment advocate, Gretchen Carlson, on to discuss. She's a broadcast journalist who never expected to be the face fighting sexual harassment, but it's a role she took on after being sexually harassed for years at Fox News by its chief, Roger Ailes. Gretchen is the co-founder of Lift Our Voices, and she's the author of Be Fierce, Stop Harassment and Take Your Power Back. Gretchen, it is so good to see you. Thank you so much for joining me on Oh My World.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Great. Well, you are coming on at the perfect time because I see, over the last year and with what's happened in the UK, this growing fury among women against violence and harassment they face. But how do we get to the next step? What can we do to actually affect change, whether it's the culture or just reach a solution to this problem?
Legislatively, we can do a tremendous amount to try to curb and stop the violence against women. But one of the major lessons that I've learned over the last 4.5 years since I sued Roger Ailes at Fox News for harassment is that men are a huge part of this equation. So as women, we're really great at getting together and saying, yes, we need to get all this stuff done and we need to use our voices more and we need to speak up, and that's all really essential. But we also have to engage with men and encourage them and invite them to be on our team. As long as they continue to rule the world and pretty much rule almost every major corporation, they're making all the decisions of hiring, firing, promoting, harassing or not, and the kind of policies that they put in place, equal pay. And so we need to invite them in to say, this is not a male bashing exercise. This is how can we come together, men and women, to try and solve these problems? And it really stops at the top, Hagar. That's what I've learned. So if men are in charge of all these companies, then we need to educate them that the buck stops with them. And we need to invite them into the conversation and hope that they'll join our team.
100%. Well, not at least until women take over, I guess.
Well, that's true. Definitely.
So tell us also about your bill. You have a bill to eradicate forced arbitration in the workplace. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, so people don't even know if they have this in their work contracts. So go look right now if you have an employee contract. Forced arbitration means if you have any kind of dispute at work that you would never envision getting into, that you, no matter what, cannot go to an open jury process. You go into something called forced arbitration, which is a secret chamber, and it's forced upon you that forever you'll have to be secret about it. So for harassment cases or gender discrimination or race discrimination, nobody ever knows about what happens to you. And so I've been working for the last 3.5 years on the Hill to get rid of this, to not allow companies to force you into this secret chamber and hide their dirty laundry. I testified before House Judiciary a month ago, and I'm really excited that the bill is going to be introduced again in the House and the Senate, and that this thing will get passed into law. And Hagar, it is a game changer for women and for men and for minorities in the workplace. For any disenfranchised group, this is a huge game changer because they can't hide anything secret anymore.
I'm so excited. Well, I think it'll pass. I look forward to it. And thank you for your work on this.
Thanks for having me. Am I enough of a geek today?
Yes. And thank you for your glasses and for being a glorious geek. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks again.
Yesterday, Secretary of State Tony Blinken met with the Chinese foreign minister in his first high-level world meeting since Biden took office. The meeting took place in Alaska, and the fact that Blinken's very first global meeting is with China says a lot about where the Biden team views priorities and also threats. The Chinese said they discussed how both can work together on the pandemic, economic recovery, and climate change. They also asked Blinken to reverse Trump's economic policies toward China, like certain trade restrictions and sanctions. But basically, Blinken said, fat chance. In fact, just in case there was any question on the part of the Chinese as to whether things would be different under this administration, the Biden team sanctioned 24 Chinese and Hong Kong officials over the Chinese government's continued crackdown in Hong Kong the day before this meeting. Awkward. So basically, Blinken took the opportunity in the meeting to lay the law and plow through his interests, starting with Chinese theft of US technology, China's unfair trade practices, and China's lack of transparency on COVID. He also wasn't going to stay silent on human rights issues, even though China warned the US to stay out of, quote, internal matters. So Blinken read his counterpart the Riot Act regarding China's genocide against the Uyghur people, its crackdown in Hong Kong, and its repression of Tibet. Blinken also raised his concerns about China's maritime and border incursions against Australia, Japan, and India. So safe to say, this meeting sounded super fun for the Chinese. President Biden wants to ultimately change China's behavior by rallying numerous other countries and partners to stand up to the Chinese government together. And so while his goal regarding China is similar to Trump's, his tactic is different in that he doesn't want to go it alone. I personally think this meeting was a great way to set the stage for the next 4 years, but we'll see how the Chinese react and if Biden can rally others to join him in the fight. This week, Kim Yo-jong, who's the sister of North Korea's chief thug, Kim Jong-un, warned the United States that, quote, if it wants to sleep in peace for the coming 4 years, it had better refrain from causing a stink. Who says that? I feel like that's something a teacher would say to children in a classroom. You better not cause a stink. So she issued this threat while the US and South Korea were doing joint military exercises, which for the record is something we've been doing with South Korea since 1955. They exist because South Korea and North Korea technically remain in a state of war. So these exercises are meant to test South Korea's preparedness, but also to send a message that the US and South Korea together are ready to protect the state in the event of an aggression. This week's exercises were computer simulations, and they were defensive in nature. So basically, the North Koreans are afraid of an enhanced game of Fortnite. But North Korea has never liked these exercises, and they view them as a provocation. So Kim Yo-jong wagged her little finger and said that further provocations would push North Korea to withdraw from a Korean military accord that works to reduce military hostilities. Now this week, Secretary Blinken said that the Biden team had actually reached out to the North Korean government last month in order to reduce the risk of escalation, but the North Koreans haven't responded yet. So I think Kim Yo-jong needs to worry less about the US causing a stink and worry more about feeding and not abusing North Korean citizens. Maybe Kim Yo-jong needs to Kim Yo-suck a little less. For that reason, she's on my shit list this week. Geeks. Iran's supreme leader is requiring all animated characters in movies and TV cartoons to wear hijabs. This requirement extends to any female characters of any kind, including animals and insects, like a female bee needs to now wear a head covering. Wait, it gets better. He said that the reason why animated characters need to wear the hijab is because of the consequences of not wearing one. He knows they're not real, right? I don't know if this dude has hair envy because he can't control the frizz, or if he's a little turned on by those cartoon characters, but he is definitely off his rocker. All joking aside, this is actually not that funny. The fight against mandatory hijab in Iran is a real and serious thing, and numerous brave Iranian women have been going up against the religious clerics and police there to fight this oppressive requirement. Not wearing a hijab in Iran can get you arrested, imprisoned, and tortured. Well, Masih Alinejad has made it her mission to end the mandatory hijab in Iran, and she's been leading a remarkable global movement to do it. She's an Iranian political journalist and women's rights activist who lives here in exile in New York City, and she has been, in the best way possible, a thorn in the Iranian government's side. She launched My Stealthy Freedom, which is a campaign dedicated to promoting the actions of women struggling for their rights in Iran. And she's created a number of initiatives like the hashtag My Camera Is My Weapon and hashtag White Wednesdays to share the stories and give a voice to the numerous women fighting against gender laws in Iran. She's also the author of the book, The Wind in My Hair, My Fight for Freedom in Modern Iran, which is the coolest name for a book ever, especially given her gorgeous curls. And although she lives here, it hasn't been without its perils. The Iranian government has jailed her brother just for being related to her. Masih joined me to explain why she's fighting this fight, why the world should care, and why the Biden administration must include human rights when negotiating with the Iranian government.
Hi, Masih. So great to see you. I stand for you. I'm so excited to have you, and happy Nowruz.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to join you and have the conversation together.
Oh, well, it means the world to me. Can you explain why you're fighting this fight, why it's so important, and if you sense from your social media initiatives that a majority of Iranian citizens want to fight the mandatory hijab?
It is important. Look, it's about my dignity. This is 21st century, and I don't want anyone, especially a religious dictatorship, tell me what to wear, how to behave. To me, compulsory hijab is not just a small piece of cloth, or it's not just covering my big hair. It's the main pillar of a religious dictatorship. So to me, compulsory hijab is like, it's like Berlin Wall, the Berlin Wall. If we turn this wall down, this is going to be an end to a religious dictatorship. For our government, compulsory hijab is like death to America. It's like death to Israel. So these three pillars is important. So that's why I think if women have the power to control what they're going to put on their head, then they're going to have, the control what's going on inside their head.
So can you tell us why the world should care about this fight?
Look, it's a very good question, because the whole world care about ISIS, no? And they think ISIS is finished. But this is a big lie, because we, the Iranian people, have been living under ISIS for 40 years. Look, I'm going to give you some example. If you drink alcohol, you get lashes. If you dance, you get arrested. If you sing solo as a woman, you get arrested. If you show your hair, you go to prison. If you say that, I don't want to be Muslim anymore, or you choose another religion, or even you choose that you don't want to have a God, the punishment is death. So isn't that like ISIS? That's why I strongly believe that religious dictatorship is like coronavirus. It's like ISIS. And if you don't care about it, you just ignore Iranian people and leave them alone on their fight, then you have to fight the ISIS and coronavirus in your own land, in the West. That is why I call on all politicians, young generation around the world, join us. Go and follow the initiative called My Camera is My Weapon. You see how Iranian people, ordinary people, use their camera to expose violence and to fight ISIS inside Iran, which is a punishable crime. But they do it because they care about the rest of the world, not just about themselves.
You are such an inspiration. I have no doubt that you're going to be successful in this, and you let me know whatever I can do to help rally people, because I completely agree with you. Okay, and if you had one message quickly to say to President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, what would it be?
Oh my God. Look, they want to negotiate with the president of Iran, the foreign minister of Iran. I want to tell them something very simple. They are not representing us, the people of Iran. Why? I'm going to tell you why. Look, as a woman, I don't have the right to choose what I want to wear. As a woman, I don't have the right to ride a bicycle. I don't have the right to sing solo. I don't have the right to be a president. I don't have the right to have fun. I don't have the right to have the custody of my child. I don't have the right actually to travel abroad without getting permission from my husband. Can you believe that? And suddenly in Iran, I have been given the right to choose a president. Isn't that funny? So this is not a real election. That's why if you're looking for stability in the region, you cannot go and negotiate with the most unstable regime. You have to recognize the civil society. That's all I want to say to Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. You can do a lot. Imagine in America, Muslim women get beaten up and forced to remove their hijab. What would you do? You never keep silent. But when it happens right now in Iran, women get beaten up just because they want to remove their hijab or they want to choose their own lifestyle. The whole world keeps silent. Don't. This is wrong, and the history will judge you.
You're right. I love that you don't keep silent, that nothing will silence you, and I think that's right.
Nothing. They even arrested my brother to punish me. But I have a lot of brothers and sisters inside Iran. They want me to be their voices.
We do too. Thank you, Masih.
Thank you so much.
Wow! Can you believe the two badass trailblazing women I had on the show today? Both Gretchen and Masih are so incredibly inspiring. I swear I get goosebumps listening to them. I told you I would fangirl. Please hit that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments if you have a question or if there's a story you want to hear more about. And please follow Oh My World and Me on Instagram and Twitter. Stay fabulous, geeks.